When Jungkook steps into a forgotten alley in Seoul, a brutal fight erupts, unveiling secrets that could destroy everything he's tried to forget. Blood under the rain, put down the knife, Jungkook. The voice came from the shadows, low, steady, and too familiar. The rain pounded against the slick pavement of the abandoned district, drowning the city's heartbeat beneath a curtain of sound. Neon lights from a half-broken sign flickered above him, casting fractured colors across his face. Blue, red, blue, red. Like a police siren echoing from another life. Jungkook didn't move. His breathing was heavy, each inhale laced with cold mist. The metallic tang of blood lingered in the air, and his right knuckle throbbed where it had struck flesh moments earlier. A man lay crumpled on the ground before him, groaning faintly, face half hidden by the shadow of a fallen street lamp. "I told you to stay out of this," Jungkook hissed, voice trembling not from fear, but from something deeper, guilt, maybe, or fury. He wasn't sure anymore. From the edge of the alley, a silhouette stepped closer, tall, wrapped in a black coat that swayed like liquid shadow. The stranger's boots splashed through shallow puddles, slow, deliberate, and unafraid. His face came into view, and Jungkook's stomach clenched. It was Min Jae. The name burned through his mind like fire meeting gasoline. They had trained together once, in a place both of them swore to forget, a place where survival meant betrayal and loyalty was a death sentence. Now Minji's eyes held the same cold calculation he used to have in those underground fights, when both were just boys throwing fists for money and bruised pride. "Still fighting ghosts?" Minjae asked, glancing at the unconscious man. "Or just running from new ones?" Jungkook tightened his grip on the knife, feeling the slick handle bite against his palm. His hoodie clung to his skin, soaked through with rain and sweat. Every instinct screamed for him to walk away. But he couldn't, not tonight. Not after what the man on the ground had said. "Tell me who sent you," Jungkook muttered, crouching beside the bleeding stranger. But before he could speak again, a blow caught him from behind, hard and precise, sending him crashing against the wall. The knife clattered out of his hand, sliding across the pavement into darkness. Minji's voice cut through the storm. "You never learn." Pain bloomed in Jungkook's shoulder, but he pushed himself up, eyes burning. The two men circled each other like wolves beneath the rain. Minjae struck first, swift, brutal, efficient. Jungkook blocked, countered, then took a hit to the ribs that made him gasp. Years of buried anger burst through his veins as he fought back with everything he had, fists flying, boots slamming against wet concrete. That it wasn't just a fight. It was an exorcism. Every blow carried the weight of every night he'd spent trying to forget, the sound of screams, the smell of sweat and iron, the laughter of men who'd treated them like animals. And Minjae, his old brother, his old enemy, was the last chain binding him to that past. When Minji's punch missed by a breath, Jungkook seized the moment. He drove his elbow into Minji's jaw, grabbed his coat, and slammed him against the wall. The thud echoed like thunder. "Why are you here?" Jungkook demanded, rain dripping from his hair into his eyes. "Who told you to find me?" Minji's lip curled into a smirk, blood tracing a line from the corner of his mouth. "You really don't remember, do you?" Jungkook froze. Minjae leaned closer, voice a whisper almost lost to the rain. "It's not over, Jungkook. You think you walked away, but the past doesn't forgive. And it's coming for you." Before Jungkook could react, Minjae drove his knee into Jungkook's stomach and broke free, vanishing into the maze of alleys like smoke fading into night. For a long moment, Jungkook stood motionless under the relentless rain, chest heaving. The sound of the city was distant now. Sirens, traffic, the hum of neon lights. He knelt, staring at the blood swirling down the drain. The man he had fought earlier was gone. Only a scrap of torn fabric remained on the ground, black, with a faint silver insignia stitched at the corner. Jungkook picked it up, eyes narrowing as he recognized the mark. That it was the same emblem burned into his memory from years ago, the one worn by the men who had turned him into what he was. The ghosts weren't coming back. They had never left. He rose slowly, fists tightening at his sides, the fabric still clutched in his hand. The rain washed over his face, cold and merciless, as the city lights flickered above like dying stars. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled, deep, ominous, and close. and Jungkook knew this was only the beginning. The echo beneath the stage, the sirens still screamed in Jungkook's ears long after the lights went out. He sat in the narrow dressing room, drenched in sweat, hands trembling around a paper cup of water he hadn't yet drunk. The world outside was chaos, managers shouting, security running, army still confused and restless. Inside, though, there was only silence. Too much silence. Jimin sat across from him, his stage outfit half unbuttoned, chest rising and falling fast. The look in his eyes wasn't fear, it was betrayal. "You knew something was wrong," he said quietly. "Didn't you?" Jungkook didn't answer. His gaze stayed fixed on the floor where droplets of water glimmered under the harsh fluorescent light. They weren't from the cup. They were tears. Jeon leaned against the wall, arms crossed, trying to hold himself together. The adrenaline from the stage hadn't worn off, and his muscles still buzzed with tension. "Whatever that was, it wasn't random," he muttered. "Security said the object hit the stage barrier before it reached us. It wasn't a light. It was metal." Jimin's breath caught. Metal. Like a shard. A piece of something thrown, or maybe. Jeon stopped, jaw tightening. Maybe launched. The word hung in the air like smoke. Jungkook finally looked up. His eyes were red, haunted. "It was meant for me." Silence again. Even the sound of the air conditioner seemed to vanish. Jimin's throat tightened. Why would anyone? Jungkook took a deep breath, forcing the words out as if they hurt. "I've been getting messages. For weeks. Someone's been watching me. Following us." Jeon's expression turned cold. "And you didn't say anything? What was I supposed to do?" Jungkook snapped, his voice cracking. "Tell everyone we're being hunted? That some faceless freak wants to see me break on stage." His fist slammed the armrest. "You think I wanted this?" The door burst open before anyone could respond. Manager Lee entered, face pale and tight. "We're shutting down the aftershow. The authorities are here. They want to ask a few questions." Jimin frowned. "Police?" Lee nodded. "And not just local. Someone from the Seoul Task Force came personally. They said this isn't the first time something like this has happened." Jungkook's heart stuttered. "What do you mean?" Lee hesitated, then lowered his voice. "Two other artists, different tours, different cities. Both attacked mid-performance. Both received threats before it happened." The paper cup finally slipped from Jungkook's hands and hit the floor, water spilling across his sneakers. He stared at it blankly, as if watching something distant and unreal. That night, the corridors of the arena emptied slowly. The smell of burnt pyrotechnics still lingered in the air. Jimin sat on the cold metal steps of the back exit, trying to calm his heartbeat. He could hear muffled voices from inside, police interviewing staff, flashlights sweeping over the stage. Every now and then, a shutter clicked, capturing evidence under the wrecked lighting rig. Jeon joined him, lighting a cigarette he wouldn't smoke. He just held it, unlit, between his fingers. "He's blaming himself," Jeon said. Jimin nodded. "He always does." Jeon looked up at the night sky, blank, heavy with city fog. "If someone wants him broken, they're close. Too close." Jimin shivered. "You think it's someone from inside?" "I don't know." Jeon's voice was low. "But whoever they are, they know his habits. His routines. The timing. Even the choreography cues." He turned toward Jimin, eyes dark. "That's not a fan. That's someone who's been watching us." Inside the green room, Jungkook sat alone now, staring at the dressing mirror. The reflection didn't look like him. It looked older, tired, hollowed. He could still hear the cheers echoing in his head. Twisted now into whispers, he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out the crumpled note. The first one he'd received. The one that had started all of this. But tonight, there was something different about it. The ink had bled slightly, revealing faint letters underneath the original message. Hidden words, almost invisible until the heat of his hand brought them out. "You won't stand alone this time." The meaning struck like a jolt of ice down his spine. He folded the paper slowly, as if afraid it might burn him at that exact moment. The dressing room light flickered. Once. Twice. Then the mirror in front of him went black. A new reflection appeared for a split second. A blurred silhouette standing behind him, unmoving, watching. Jungkook spun around, breath catching, but the room was empty. Only the faint sound of footsteps fading down the hall. He pressed a hand to his chest, feeling his pulse hammering against his ribs. The note crinkled in his palm, and for the first time, Jungkook realized this wasn't just about fear or fame. Someone wanted to rewrite what happened on that stage, and they were willing to do anything to make it happen again. Outside, the last of the fans dispersed, their voices fading into the night. But somewhere beneath the arena floor, hidden in the hum of the sound system, a small red light blinked. Recording, waiting, listening. The show wasn't over. Not yet. The phantom behind the lights the next morning broke gray and uneasy. Rain tapped against the hotel windows like fingertips, rhythmic but impatient. Jungkook hadn't slept. His phone buzzed every few minutes with notifications, news headlines, fan theories, endless speculation. Protect Jungkook trended worldwide, but none of it made him feel safer. He sat on the edge of his bed, staring at his phone screen. His reflection stared back in the dark glass, framed by the faint glow of another message that had appeared overnight. No name, no number, just words. You looked scared last night. Don't worry. It was just a warning. His throat went dry. He dropped the phone onto the bed and pressed his palms against his face, willing his mind to slow down. He'd spent years performing in front of millions, holding his composure under pressure. But this was different. This wasn't stage fright. It was dread. That a knock broke through the silence. Jungkook. Jimin's soft voice came through the door, cautious. Can I come in? Jungkook didn't answer immediately. He wiped his face quickly, straightened up, and opened the door. Jimin stepped in, wearing a hoodie pulled over his damp hair. His eyes scanned the room, dark curtains drawn, untouched breakfast tray, phone lying face down. You didn't sleep, Jimin said quietly. It wasn't a question. Couldn't. There was a long pause. Rain whispered against the glass. Jimin sat on the edge of the bed beside him, their shoulders barely touching. They said the police found something under the stage, he murmured. A small device. Some kind of transmitter. Jungkook's head snapped toward him. What? They think it was used to trigger the lights, or maybe something else. They're not sure yet. For a moment, Jungkook couldn't breathe. His mind replayed the moment the stage lights had flared, the blinding heat, the flicker before the chaos. So it wasn't just a coincidence. Jimin hesitated. No, it was planned. Jungkook ran a trembling hand through his hair. They're not just threatening me anymore. They're watching the show. Jimin's eyes softened. Then we don't face it alone. Jungkook looked at him, a thousand things unspoken between them. You don't understand. Whoever's behind this, they're inside. They know everything. The choreography, the set cues, even where I'd stand during the chorus. Then we find out who it is, Jimin said firmly. Before they try again. The door opened behind them before Jungkook could answer. Jeon stepped in, holding a folded piece of paper with the Seoul Police logo on top. They sent us the report, he said, his tone grim. You should see this. He handed it over. On the last page was a photograph, grainy, taken from one of the backstage cameras. A shadowed figure near the lighting console, face obscured, body turned slightly toward the stage. But what froze Jungkook's blood was what the person was wearing, a black hoodie with their tour emblem printed across the back, the same uniform as the crew. Jungkook stared at it for a long time. Someone from our team, he whispered. Jeon nodded. Security's checking everyone, but they said one crew member didn't show up this morning. Name's Han Min, lighting technician. No calls, no messages. Vanished. The silence grew heavy again. Jimin rose from the bed, crossing to the window. If he's the one who planted it, he could be anywhere. We're still close, Jeon said. People like this don't just disappear. They like to watch. A knock on the door interrupted them again, but this time, it wasn't soft. It was sharp, urgent. Jungkook opened it to find Manager Lee, his expression pale. We have a problem, he said. Someone just hacked the official tour page. They uploaded a video. They followed him down the hall into the control room, where a laptop screen displayed the site. The homepage had been replaced by a black screen with a looping clip, grainy footage from last night's concert. The exact moment Jungkook embraced Jimin and Jeon, slowed down frame by frame. Then, words appeared across the screen in red text. Do it again, and the next one won't miss. The room fell silent except for the hum of the laptop fan. Jimin took a step back, hand over his mouth. They're still watching. Jeon clenched his fists. This isn't some fan. This is someone obsessed. Someone who wants control. Manager Lee was already on the phone with the authorities, but Jungkook barely heard him. His mind drifted back to the moment under the lights. The panic, the flash, the promise whispered in his head. You'll break on stage, just like before. Only now, the voice felt closer. He turned toward the dark monitor. The looping image of his embrace replayed endlessly, hauntingly intimate. His own eyes stared back at him from the screen, frozen in a smile that now felt like a mask. He whispered, almost to himself, what do they want from me? Jimin's answer was quiet but certain. They want fear. They want to see you fall. That night, Jungkook sat alone again, unable to rest. The storm outside had grown violent, thunder cracking over the city. The others had gone to speak with the police, but he stayed behind, staring out at the lights of Seoul flickering through the rain. And then, just past midnight, his phone buzzed one more time. No number. Just a video file, unnamed. He hesitated before pressing play. The screen showed footage from inside his hotel room. taken from above, like a ceiling camera. The image was grainy, static-filled, but clear enough to show Jungkook sitting exactly where he was sitting right now. And behind him, in the shadow by the curtain, something moved. He turned instantly, heart pounding, but the corner was empty. Just darkness and rain light. The video ended with a flash of red text. Don't look away next time. Jungkook's hand trembled as he dropped the phone. Outside, lightning split the sky, illuminating the glass for a single, blinding instant. And in that flash, a reflection appeared, someone standing just beyond the window, watching. The window that watched back the window shattered the silence before the lightning faded. A dull thud echoed through Jungkook's hotel room as he stumbled backward, his heart racing. The rain smacked against the glass, trickling through the hairline crack, now running across the lower corner of the pane. Outside, the reflection was gone. Whoever had been standing there, if anyone had vanished into the night. He rushed to the window and yanked the curtains shut, his breath coming fast. For a moment, all he could hear was the thunder and the pulse in his own ears. The phone still lay on the floor where he dropped it, its screen flickering faintly as though the message were breathing. That he grabbed it, hands shaking, and dialed Jimin's number. One ring, two, then a click. Jungkook. Jimin's voice was groggy, muffled by sleep. Don't hang up, Jungkook said quickly, eyes darting around the dim room. Someone's here. What? Where? Outside my window. I saw. He hesitated, pressing his palm to the cracked glass. The rain chilled his skin. I don't know. A shadow. A person. Jimin was already awake now, his voice tight. Stay where you are. I'm coming up. No, wait. Don't. If they're watching, I don't want you near this room. Jungkook, I mean it. He swallowed hard. Just call security. Please. He ended the call before Jimin could argue. The silence returned, thick and humming. Somewhere in the hallway, footsteps echoed, slow, deliberate. Jungkook froze, straining to listen. The sound stopped just outside his door. A knock followed. 3 times. Steady. Heavy. He didn't answer. The knocks came again, harder this time. Then, a voice, low and unfamiliar. Room service. His blood ran cold. He hadn't ordered anything. And it was nearly 2 in the morning that he backed away slowly, reaching for the metal lamp by the bedside. The door handle turned once. Twice. A soft metallic click. Then the door opened just an inch, enough for a thin strip of light to spill into the room. Before Jungkook could react, the hallway exploded with noise. Shouts. Running. The door was slammed shut again from the outside. He heard Jimin's voice somewhere in the chaos, sharp and desperate. That's his room. Don't let them get away. Moments later, Jimin burst inside, followed by Jeon and 2 security guards. Jungkook stood frozen by the bed, still gripping the lamp like a weapon. They were here, Jungkook whispered. At the door. At the window. Jeon glanced toward the hallway where officers were already running. They won't get far. But Jungkook didn't believe that. Whoever this was, they were always one step ahead. Always watching. Jimin crossed the room and put a hand on his shoulder, grounding him. You're shaking, he murmured. I saw them, Jungkook said quietly. Not their face. Just their presence. Like the air moved wrong. Jeon looked around the room, scanning every corner. It's not safe here anymore. They relocated within the hour. The group moved to a new hotel across town. Their location kept secret even from most of the crew. But Jungkook couldn't shake the feeling that it didn't matter. No matter where they went, the shadow followed. By morning, the news had broken. Security scare at BTS hotel. Fans worry for Jungkook's safety. Images of police outside the building flooded social media. The fans were terrified, angry, demanding answers. But the truth was too strange to explain to the new hotel. The mood was heavier than ever. Manager Lee ordered silence. No interviews, no live broadcasts, no contact with outsiders. The group gathered in the suite's living area, the air thick with exhaustion. We're postponing the tour, Lee said finally. Until this is under control. Jimin looked at Jungkook. What if it's never under control? The words hung there, raw and true. Later, when everyone drifted into uneasy rest, Jungkook sat by the balcony, staring at the faint city lights. He should have felt safer. But his phone was on the table beside him, and the screen lit up again. No sound this time, just a silent notification. A new message. Running won't help. I'm already inside. He froze. Slowly, he looked toward the door leading to the living room. It was closed. Everyone was asleep. His heartbeat quickened as he reached for the phone again. But before he could touch it, the television across the room flickered on by itself. Static. Then a faint hum, like a voice buried beneath white noise. He stood, every muscle locked. The screen shifted. Grainy footage appeared, this time from a camera angle he didn't recognize. It showed them, All of them, asleep in their rooms. Viewed from above, Jungkook's mouth went dry. He stepped closer, watching in horror as the camera panned slowly from Jimin's room to Jeon's, to his own door. Then the image zoomed in. On him, right now, standing in front of the television. His reflection on the screen stared back, eyes wide with disbelief. Behind him, in the corner of the room, something dark moved again that he turned fast, but nothing was there. Only the whisper of the air conditioner and the faint hum of the city beyond the window. Then the voice came, distorted but clear through the static. You can't hide from the light you built. The screen went black. Jungkook stood there, heart hammering, as the realization settled deep in his bones. Whoever this was didn't just want to hurt him. They wanted to erase him, piece by piece. Through the very stage and spotlight that had made him untouchable, he sat back down slowly, staring into the dark. Outside, dawn began to rise over Seoul, pale and uncertain. While somewhere out there, in another room, someone watched the same sunrise through a camera feed labeled simply, Jeon, Jimin, Jungkook. The shadow inside the song, the first rays of dawn slipped through the blinds, pale and unsteady, painting the room in washed-out gray. Jungkook hadn't closed his eyes all night. The message still burned in his mind. I'm already inside. He sat by the television, its blank screen reflecting his exhausted face, haunted by static ghosts that wouldn't leave. When the knock came at the door, soft and measured, he nearly jumped. Jungkook. Jeon's voice was low, tired. It's me. Jungkook unlocked the door, relief and dread mingling in his chest. Jeon stepped in, holding a small black object wrapped in tissue paper. Found this. What is it? Jeon unwrapped it slowly. A camera lens, tiny, barely the size of a coin. It was in the air vent, Jeon said. Not a hotel camera. Something else. Someone's been watching all of us. Jungkook stared at it, his stomach turning. So it wasn't just my room. No, Jeon said grimly. They bugged every room. Before Jungkook could respond, Jimin appeared in the doorway, pale but steady. There's more, he said quietly. Manager Lee's gone. The words hit like ice water. What do you mean gone? Jungkook demanded. He left before sunrise. No note. No call. His phone's off. Security checked the lobby cameras. He walked out at 4:17 a.m. alone. Jeon's jaw tightened. He was the only one with access to the full crew list. Jungkook sank back into the chair, the air suddenly too heavy to breathe. The people closest to them were disappearing, one by one. The ones left behind were being watched. For hours, the three sat together in uneasy silence, waiting for the police to arrive. But when the officers finally came, they didn't bring answers, only new questions. The hotel surveillance from the previous night had been wiped clean. Entire hours missing, replaced with static. No trace of Manager Lee, no sign of anyone entering Jungkook's room, and no record of the message broadcast to the television. It's as if it never happened, one of the investigators said, but Jungkook knew it had. He could still feel the echo of the voice, whispering through the static, "By afternoon." The group's management ordered them to relocate again, this time to a private residence in the hills outside Seoul. Isolated, secure, hidden, or so they hoped. The house was silent when they arrived. No fans, no noise, only the rustle of wind through the pine trees outside. It should have been peaceful, but peace was something Jungkook no longer trusted. That night, while the others tried to sleep, he wandered through the house. Every creak of the wooden floor made his pulse jump. He paused in front of the old, upright piano in the living room. Dust coated the keys, untouched for years. Almost unconsciously, he pressed one. A soft note echoed through the empty space. Then another. The melody that followed came to him like memory, familiar, bittersweet, a song he hadn't played since trainee days. He didn't even realize Jimin was standing in the doorway until the last note faded. That song, Jimin whispered. You used to play it when you couldn't sleep. Jungkook looked up, startled. You remember that? Jimin smiled faintly, stepping closer. Of course. You said it kept the nightmares quiet. Jungkook hesitated, fingers hovering above the keys. I think, whoever's doing this, they know that song. Jimin frowned. How? I heard it last night, Jungkook said, voice trembling. Through the static. Before the screen went black. A few notes, exactly the same melody. Jimin froze. That's impossible. Unless it's someone who was there back then. The air shifted between them, heavy with realization. There were only a handful of people who knew that tune. Old trainers, staff, maybe one or two former members from their pre-debut circle. Jeon entered quietly, overhearing. I made a list, he said. People who had access to the crew network, the stage files, and our rehearsal footage. He handed them a paper covered in scribbled names. One was circled twice. Han Min SEO. The technician who disappeared? Jimin asked. Jeon nodded. Before joining the crew, he worked at HYBE's sound department years ago, back when we were still trainees. Jungkook's breath caught. He was there the night we recorded the practice version of Euphoria. Jeon met his eyes. And now he's the one controlling the lights, the cameras, the signals. The revelation sat between them like a live wire. Jimin whispered, "Then this isn't random. It's personal." Jungkook stood abruptly, the old piano still echoing faintly behind him. "If Minseo's still watching, he wants me to play into it. To break under the same light that made me. Then we turn it against him," Jeon said. "We make him show himself." "How?" Jimin stepped forward, his expression hardening. "He's obsessed with moments. The stage, the spotlight, the perfect emotion. We give him what he wants." Jungkook frowned. "You mean another performance?" "Exactly," Jimin said. "A live stream. Controlled. No audience. Just us, the cameras, and him watching from wherever he is. If he's still following your every move, he'll take the bait." Jeon nodded slowly. "And when he does, we trace it back." The idea was reckless, dangerous, but for the first time in days, Jungkook saw something like clarity through the fog of fear. That night, they set it up. A private stage, rebuilt inside the studio of the safe house. A single spotlight. One camera feed broadcasting to a closed server, accessible only to their team. Or so they hoped. Jungkook stood at the center of the small stage, the microphone trembling in his hand. The red light above the camera blinked on. He began to sing, the same song. The one from the piano. The one the shadow had used to reach him. Every word carried weight now. Fear, defiance, memory. Jimin and Jeon watched from behind the monitor, eyes locked on the live data feed, waiting for the signal. Then, at the midpoint of the song, the studio lights flickered once. Twice. Jungkook froze on the control screen. A new IP connection appeared. Unfamiliar, untraceable. Someone was watching. "Got him," Jeon whispered. But before they could act, the speakers crackled, and a voice filled the room, distorted but unmistakably human. "You're learning, Jungkook." Jungkook's breath hitched. The microphone slipped in his grip. The voice laughed softly through the static. "But you forgot something. I was always part of the song." The lights shut off all at once, plunging the studio into darkness. In that black silence, only the echo of Jungkook's unfinished melody remained, carried by a ghost who knew every note before it was ever written. The last stage, the piano notes lingered in the empty hall, a melody both haunting and familiar. Each key pressed carried the weight of memories, laughter, pain, and the years that had led to this moment. The live stream had ended abruptly hours ago, yet the world outside was still screaming. Headlines blazed across every screen. BTS missing after live broadcast horror. Fans in shock as final song turns to chaos. But deep beneath the concert stage, where the lights never reached, Jungkook awoke to the sound of water dripping. His throat burned. His wrists ached from the rough rope biting into his skin. He blinked through the haze. Across from him, Jimin stirred, blood on his lip. Jeon crouched beside him, his face pale but fierce. "You're awake," Jeon murmured, voice low. "He's still here." Jungkook's chest tightened. "Where?" Before Jeon could answer, the echo of footsteps filled the corridor, slow, deliberate, confident. The sound of shoes scraping concrete. A shadow appeared at the edge of the dim light. He carried something in his hand, not a weapon, but a small, worn-out music box. He wound it slowly, and a tinkling melody filled the air. The same song Jungkook had written years ago, back when they were just trainees dreaming of stages too bright to imagine. "Do you remember this?" Minseyo asked softly. "We made it together. You said it sounded like hope." Jungkook's eyes burned. "It was hope, until you turned it into a cage." Minseyo looked away, the faintest crack of emotion flickering through his expression. "They made me disappear, Jungkook. I was the ghost in your spotlight. I built your sound, your rhythm, your rise, and when I was gone, no one even asked where I went. Because you vanished," Jimin said, voice trembling but steady. "You didn't give anyone a chance." Minseyo's gaze snapped toward him. "Chance? There are no chances in this world. Only replacements." He stepped closer, the faint click of his shoes echoing like a metronome counting down. "You all live pretending this fame means something. But the music, it's just noise when it's built on lies." Jungkook met his eyes, calm, almost resigned. "Then let's end the noise." For the first time, Minseyo faltered. "What? You want truth?" "Here it is," Jungkook said, rising despite the pain in his wrists. "I wasn't perfect. I failed. I broke. I hurt people who believed in me. But the one thing that never changed was why I sang. It wasn't for fame. It was for us, for every broken kid who thought they'd never be heard." The silence that followed was so sharp it hurt. Even the dripping water stopped, as if the air itself was listening. Then Jimin spoke, his voice soft. You taught him that melody, Min Seo. You're part of it too. Something flickered in Min Seo's eyes, not anger this time, but sorrow. He looked down at the music box in his hands. His fingers trembled as he wound it once more, slower now. I wanted the world to hear my song, he whispered. I didn't want it to end like this. Jungkook took a step closer. Then don't let it. For a long, fragile moment, Min Seo said nothing. Then, with a weary sigh, he placed the music box on the ground and pressed his palm against the control panel hidden in the wall. The locks clicked open one by one, the metallic sound echoing like falling dominoes. It's over, he said. But as the final lock released, the old stage machinery groaned, the years of wear and damage catching up all at once. Sparks flew. The ceiling lights flickered violently. Min Seo. Jimin shouted. A beam cracked loose, crashing down between them. Jungkook lunged forward, dragging Jimin and Jeon out of the way, but Min Seo was caught by the debris. Dust and smoke filled the air. When it cleared, Jungkook crawled toward him. Min Seo was pinned, but still conscious. Blood streaked his forehead. Leave me, he whispered. Get out. The generators are unstable. Jungkook shook his head, voice breaking. I'm not leaving you here. Min Seo smiled faintly. You already did a long time ago. His hand reached out, pressing the music box into Jungkook's palm. Finish the song. Then his eyes closed. The explosion came seconds later, a deafening roar that tore through the underground hall and shattered the silence above. When Jungkook opened his eyes again, he was outside, surrounded by the wreckage of the old studio, the dawn light washing over the ruins. Jimin knelt beside him, coughing, while Jeon called for help through the static of a damaged radio. The music box was still in Jungkook's hand, miraculously unbroken. He turned the tiny crank. The melody began to play again, fragile, beautiful, pure. Days later, during a memorial concert streamed across the world, Jungkook stood on stage with Jimin and Jeon beside him. No special effects, no bright lights, just 3 voices and 1 piano. Before he sang, Jungkook looked up toward the rafters, where the shadows once lived. This song, he said softly, is for the one who reminded me that music isn't about perfection. It's about being heard. The melody filled the arena, the same one Min Seo had written with him years ago. Armies listened in silence, tears in their eyes, as the notes rose and fell like a heartbeat. Fragile, human, eternal. When the final chord faded, Jungkook whispered into the mic, the show's over. But as the lights dimmed, a faint sound came from the piano, a single note, struck by unseen hands, and Jungkook smiled through his tears. No, he murmured, maybe it's just beginning. In a haunting finale, Jungkook faces his past beneath the stage, where truth, betrayal, and music collide in one unforgettable ending.